Welcome back to Pursuing Vitality. In this video, we're going to discuss the 5 laws of fat loss. And if you apply these laws, you're going to be well on your way to losing fat and doing it the right way. So law number 1 is you need to be in a calorie deficit. Being in a calorie deficit is the king of losing fat. If you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not going to lose fat. Now, it took me a while to understand this. Trust me, I've done every diet there is out there to do, like many of you have. I've done keto, I've done low carb, I've done low fat, high carb. There's even a sugar diet right now. I haven't done that one, but supposedly that's the latest craze. So I've done intermittent fasting, and I've had success to a certain degree with all those different diets, but they were not sustainable. And tracking my calories and being in a calorie deficit is the only way that I could find that's sustainable. A year ago, I was doing all the things that I thought was right to help me lose weight, to lose body fat. I was working out 3 or 4 times a week. I was going on walks every day, essentially, and I wasn't losing any weight at all, and it was super frustrating. So once I took a deep dive into how many calories I was consuming, that answered all my questions. I really found that I wasn't actually in a calorie deficit, and that's why I wasn't losing weight. The calorie deficit is essentially, energy coming in and energy going out. If you have more energy coming in than you're outputting, you're going to gain weight. If you have more energy going out than that's coming in, you're going to lose weight, and that's a calorie deficit, better known as the energy deficit. Now, you can achieve a calorie deficit in multiple ways. I currently do it with a combination of diet and exercise, and I think that's the best way to do it. If you do it strictly with reducing your calories, and a lot of people do that, especially if you're very motivated or desperate to lose weight, you're going to jump in and slash your calories, and you're going to lose some weight quickly. But if you cannot sustain that, you're going to just say, forget it, and you're going to go right back to doing what you're doing before, and you're going to gain all that weight back. And I've done that yo-yo dieting, like many of you probably have, and it just doesn't work. How I do it is counting my calories, and I factor in some movement to get to my deficit. I'm trying to get a 500 calorie deficit, and the reason I choose 500 is because 500 is multiplied times 7 is 1 pound of body fat per week, okay? So 1 pound of body fat per week is sustainable. If you want to go more aggressive, you can, try and cut the calories a little bit more, try and up the exercise a little bit more. But the more you do that, the harder it's going to be to sustain that. And sustainability is key. Calorie deficits, energy deficit is based on the law of thermodynamics, and that's basically, as I said several times, because I want to make this point, it's energy coming in, energy going out. So if you've got a ton of body fat on you, kind of think of it in terms of you've just got too much energy on your body. So we want to tap into that stored energy, stored body fat, and let the body use it for energy, and that will help you lose weight. So remember, creating a calorie deficit is the first law of fat loss, and if you violate that law, none of the other ones will matter. Law number 2 is you have to measure what's going on, and that means tracking your calories. How do you know you're in a calorie deficit? Weighing yourself on the scale, you need to see proof that you're in a calorie deficit. If the scale's not moving and you're not seeing visual signs of you losing weight, then you're not in a calorie deficit. The body doesn't like to be in a calorie deficit. So if you're in a true calorie deficit, you're going to see it on the scale, you're going to see it in the mirror, and others are going to also see it, and you're going to feel it. You're going to feel differently, okay? So how I ensure that I'm in a calorie deficit, I track all my calories. And I know everybody's rolling their eyes right now, or, just saying, okay, I'm not even going to listen anymore because I'm not going to track my calories. I was the same way. I absolutely did not want to track calories. I'm your typical guy that doesn't want to do anything more than necessary and achieve maximum results at the same time. Well, there's no getting around it. Tracking calories is invaluable because it keeps you accountable. You know exactly what you're doing, okay? And the other thing that I found with tracking calories that works for me and goes into that sustainability that I was referring to earlier is that I don't have any dietary restriction. I can eat whatever I want to eat, but I have to stay within my calorie requirements. The calorie requirements for me is about 2,800 calories for what's called my maintenance calories. And that's the number of calories that keeps you at baseline. You're not going to lose weight or you're not going to gain weight. In order to lose weight, I want to create that 500 calorie deficit that I spoke to earlier. And after 7 days, I should theoretically lost 1 pound. Well, it's not just theoretically, that's the way it actually works. It's math, it's science, and I can accurately predict when I'm going to lose my next pound. Okay, you have to have some way of measuring your success and some way of accountability and tracking your data, weighing yourself, watching that weight come down over time is what you need to see. Okay, law number 3 is strength training. Strength training is very important in your fat loss journey because if you don't strength train, i.e. lifting weights or doing some sort of resistance training, for some that might be going to the gym, lifting weights, some might be calisthenics, some might be yoga. Whatever your deal is, you need to have some sort of resistance to maintain your muscle mass. Why is that important? Because your muscle is like the body's engine. The more muscle you have, the bigger engine you have. And the bigger your engine, the more energy it takes to run that engine. So kind of think of it in those terms there, all right? So if you got more muscle mass on your body, the muscle tissue in it itself is very metabolic and it's going to demand energy. So if you're strength training while in a calorie deficit, you're going to maintain your muscle mass, providing you have adequate protein intake. Protein is a very important macronutrient. It's the most important one. It keeps you satiated the most. So if you hit your protein requirements, you're going to feel better and you're going to naturally eat less if you prioritize protein. My requirements are about 200 grams of protein per day. So I need to hit those numbers first. You should have about 20 to 30% of your calories coming from fat for your hormones and your bodily functions that require fat to do so. And then the rest can come from carbohydrate. And that really can come from Snickers if you wanted to. Ideally, it would be something healthier, some starch source, rice, potatoes is what mine are, and some vegetables. But, some days, hey, I got a sweet tooth and I'm going to scratch that itch, so to speak. So, got to strength train to keep that muscle, because if you don't, you're going to become skinny fat even if you lose weight. And that's not a good place to be either. Law number 4 is walking. Walking is kind of like the secret sauce to make all this work. It's very low impact and it has a big bang for the buck. I aim for about 10,000 steps a day, and I know that seems like a lot. And if you're not walking currently, it is a lot. You got to ease into that. Most people are probably walking less than 1 mile a day. Think about it. If you got your average 9 to 5 job, you wake up, you go downstairs, get in your car, you go commute for however long that is, you go in your office, you sit there for 8 hours, and then you do it in reverse coming home. You come home, get on the couch and watch TV, and you haven't done any movement at all. Even if you go to the gym, that's only, 45 minutes to an hour out of your day with no other activity. Walking is so important because it's an easy way to add to your energy expenditure during the day. I try to walk for about 10,000 steps a day. And even though I've been doing this for a while, sometimes I feel it. It's 4 to 5 miles a day for me to do that. I divide it up into 3 sections. I go for like a half hour in the morning, I go for like a half hour after lunch, and I go for a half hour, 45 minutes after dinner. And that gets me my 10,000 steps. It's not going to trash you like doing hardcore cardio is going to do, and running and cycling and all that stuff. And if you're currently doing those things and you can sustain it while you're in a calorie deficit, good for you. But walking has some tremendous health benefits, so don't discount walking. Law number 5 is consistency and patience. Everybody wants to lose weight as soon as they can, but it just doesn't work that way. You didn't gain all that weight overnight, and you're certainly not going to lose it overnight. And it's super frustrating. It's a very, very slow process, even if you're being super aggressive. I'm on a 1 pound a week fat loss journey. So at 1 pound a week, that's after walking 10,000 steps a day, tracking all my calories, being in a calorie deficit, weighing myself every day, doing a lot of stuff. And you're going to feel like you're doing a lot of stuff to stay accountable for 1 pound a week. That's just the way it goes. If you're super aggressive, I mean cutting your calories like 1,000 calories a day and working out like a maniac, which is not sustainable, most likely, by the way, you're going to get 2 pounds a week at most. If you've got a ton of body fat to lose and you're starting to do some of this stuff, it may start to come off a lot faster because you just got so much to tap into. But for everybody else, it's going to come off at about 1 pound a week. And that's an amount that's sustainable, because if you start going much more than that, you're going to feel miserable. There was a guy I was listening to last year when I was on this fat loss journey, and he basically said, hey, do you want to be miserable for a short period of time or somewhat miserable for a longer period of time? Last year, I chose miserable for a short period of time, and I crashed and burned. I just couldn't take it. I lasted about maybe a month and a half, 2 months, and I just tapped out because it was too much. I felt like crap. My sleep was horrible. I was irritable all the time, and it just wasn't a good feeling. It wasn't a place I wanted to be. This time around, I'm doing it slow and steady. 1 pound a week, that's my goal. And if I get a little bit more than that, great. Well, you may say to yourself, 1 pound a week is nothing. Well, there's 52 weeks in a year. If you've got, say, 50 plus pounds of fat to lose, would you like to be 50 pounds lighter a year from now than you are today? Of course you would. I've got about 16 to 20 pounds more that I want to lose to reach my fat loss goals. Well, that's 16 to 20 weeks. So that's 3 or 4 months in order for me to get there. And that's a long time. Okay. And it's hard to maintain and stay with the program for that long. So instead of me looking at my big picture of 16 to 20 pounds, I look at it in weekly increments and monthly increments. My win is 1 pound a week and 3 or 4 pounds a month. If I do that, that's enough to keep me on track to get to the next cycle, which is another week, another month. So I hope this information was beneficial for you today. If it was, please like and subscribe, and also share this information with someone you think could benefit. And it's really going to help you if you've been frustrated in your fat loss journey. So we'll see you in the next video.